Hey, this is Tarence Lauchié, and I'd like to thank you for tuning in to this podcast, The Growth Exchange. This podcast was designed to curate conversation, dialogue, and monologue around all things growth. I believe that everything living has the potential to grow into its fullest and most maximal potential. So let's grow. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Growth Exchange podcast. I am Dr. Tarence Lauchié, and we are in season 2. I'm so excited that 2026 is off to a great start and that you're tuning in, even if it's your first time or if you've been following or checked out some of the archives. We're on all of the social media platforms. But the Growth Exchange podcast is conversations, dialogues, monologues, presentations, all curated content to support all things growth, personal growth and development, professional growth, as well as emotional, financial, spiritual, academic, just growth, all things growth. I believe that everything has the potential to grow. And if we're going to grow, we may as well maximize that growth. So my sub themes and life mottos are all integrated in these episodes. And like I said, I'm just glad you tuned in. I hope that you're sharing this information or sharing these resources with other people because there's no charge for it. It doesn't cost you anything to just, hey, click, share, like, and let somebody know that there's this guy talking about some things that might be relevant to their own personal growth and development. I do serve in a lot of capacities in many people's lives, but I was sharing with someone just recently that I try to be the same guy across the board. So if you see me on the street, say, hey, that's Dr. Tarence Lauchié, the guy with the Growth Exchange podcast, or any of the other roles that I operate in and throughout the community, and now throughout the nation and the world, with social media being an opportunity. Hey, let's get into a conversation or a dialogue that could create a mental conversation with you on the subject of personal growth and development, specifically subtext around leading with hope. If you notice, every episode has some element of leadership or leadership tips or growth and development, but it also has an element of faith or an element where there is an opportunity to activate faith. I'm a firm believer that they go hand in hand. Our leadership and our ability to believe in something or someone greater than ourselves. Because when we're leading others, they're believing in us. What are we believing in? What are we striving to achieve objectives for? What is the reason for our existence, our purpose? And those are big questions, and I know they're philosophical in a lot of different ways, and it's never my intent to offend, but I also want to educate, inspire, and maybe even challenge people to utilize their faith or to incorporate the elements of their faith in their leadership. As leaders, we're responsible for a lot of different things. If we are a parent, we're responsible for leading our home and our family. If we are, let's say, the eldest in a family, we're responsible for certain levels of leadership there. And then when you look at corporate leadership, you look at community leadership, you look at educational environments, leadership is all around us. But I want to somehow bring out to you that leadership is not only around us, leadership is within us. So what does that look like for you? What does it look like for you to tap into the leadership and the leadership potential that you have? Are you a good leader? Are you a leader that if those who you lead were to respond, what kind of leader are they? What would they say? I would like to interject that an objective for good leadership or being a leader, an effective leader, would be to lead with hope. Lead with hope. From one of the chapters in the book that is being promoted on this platform called Maximize Volume 2, Leveling Up, I share and talk about leading with hope as being something more substantive than just naive optimism. Leading with hope is not just trying to get somebody to see the good in something that may not be good. Leading with hope is a disciplined expectation. It is anchored in hope that comes from our faith in God. Our faith, for me, it's God, or your faith in someone greater than you. I hope you're able to identify and land on God. Without being preachy, let me share this. The character of exercising hope is a God trait. God put hope in the world through faith. Think about how hope reframes all of our setbacks and all of our setups to become better. When we're addressing leadership, whether personal or professional, there are times when we miss it. We just miss the mark. And, in other episodes, I'll talk about resilience and tenacity and bouncing back. But right now, think for a moment about how hope is the element of which we can tangibly hold on to what the objectives were. It's tied into faith, yes, and it is contingent in most cases, on how much you have. How much hope do you have? And can you hold on to that hope? Well, if the hope is simply based on yourself, then there's a great possibility that we'll come up short or we'll run out of hope. But if our hope is expanded to be a larger than life focal point, we then have to activate something more. Think for a moment about all of the other attributes that go along with hope. There's faith, there is the element of believing, there's the element of practicing what it is that we believe, or even preparing in anticipation. Notice I said anticipation and not anxiety. I think when hope is put off, it makes us sick. When we defer it, it literally causes us to internalize and we start thinking of all the negative things. But if we're leading from a sphere of influence that promotes hope and thrives on hope and is fed by hope, we then create a more positive environment or space where there can be healthy hope or healthy expectations. Anxiety, I think, is the frustration of knowing something should happen, but not knowing when, how, or by what resources. So it could diminish our hope if we embrace things like anxiety. As leaders, oftentimes we'll have projects, we'll have responsibilities or tasks that are coming up, and we can become anxious, weeks before, the night before, the day before, or in moments before. We can become so anxious, not really recognizing that if we've planned properly, and if it is our purpose to fulfill, it's going to come to pass. Now, that's easier said than done because I get nervous too. I was telling somebody in a public speaking class not long ago that I get nervous every time I have to speak. I get nervous in front of audiences just like anybody else. But I've been doing it now for more than 50 years. I have been speaking in front of people. So the question is, what am I nervous about? None of those people attacked me. None of those people had any judgment that can condemn me or stop me from speaking. So my nervousness was probably something as simple as displaced passion. When we are nervous and it threatens our hope to accomplish a goal, it could be that we've displaced the passion. We forgot why we're doing what it is that we're doing. So I want to somehow use this as an example. When we hold unswervingly to the hope that we profess or that we believe that we're going to accomplish, we get help. I honestly believe that God activates all of the resources that are within the universe to help us. Now, it's not the universe itself. It is orchestrated by God, that it's all working together somehow for our good. Even the things that don't seem to be good or the outcomes that aren't good in the moment, we look back in hindsight and we realize that it can be used for good. I think about challenges that we often face that are out of our control, like the economy or perhaps the condition that the world is in, not just America, but the whole world. There are situations that are quite grievous that's happening around the world. So it could challenge our hope. It could cause us to not be very hopeful. In fact, sometimes people will go from being hopeful to being moderately pessimistic, which of course puts out the light of your hope. It literally douses the flame or the passion of your hope. So I suggest always remembering why you're doing something. Simon Sinek is known for, know your why. He's known for that book and that whole philosophy of thinking. It's almost like a cult following of folks talking about knowing your why, and I love it. I'm here for it. But your why has to be rooted in something or someone greater than yourself, and it can't just be temporary and tangible. I could say that my why is for my kids. My kids are all grown adults now, and they have kids of their own. So they're not kids. They're grown adults with their own children. So my why can't just be for my kids. It has to be for people that will eventually multiply, and it could be for generations to come. So my why is to impact generations to come with this inspiration or with these teachings around personal assessment and personal development. Speaking of personal assessment, I do some training with a tool that helps people to identify where their priorities in leadership styles are. Usually their preferences is what I like to call them. Some people say it's their personality. I beg to differ. Our personality goes with us everywhere. It's consistently the same, but our behaviors change. And so our strategies for utilizing different behaviors in different settings could spell success or failure for us. If we refuse to modify our behavior in certain situations, we're going to be a failure every time. But being able to adjust helps. But looking at those different styles can be a very helpful tool or strategy in leading with hope. If we're able to identify various styles of leadership or preferences while we're leading people with hope, we paint the picture of hope around that style. For example, if somebody's very direct and outgoing and pretty decisive, then you have to establish an end goal up front with that individual and then release them to go for it and support them with the hope that you have that they can accomplish it. If the person's preference is more inclusive and it involves inspiring other people or getting other people involved and perhaps making sure that the environment is just right before they move, then help make the environment just right before they move. But it's not hard to convince a person like that of hope. In fact, they got out of the bed with hope. And then there's a third type of preference or style, and that would be a person who's quite steady. They're even keel, and they're not moved one way or the other. They want to make sure everything just continues to flow in a comfortable and non-threatening way. It's kind of challenging to motivate that person or inspire them to hope, because if it's not on their plate, they don't need it. If it's not already within their basket, as they would say, then they probably don't necessarily want new hope. They just simply want to maintain that. Now, that's not a negative person. That's just somebody who likes to keep things stable. And then the fourth one would be the person who's very conscientious, but really skeptical. And they go, what are we hoping for? And how does it look in the outcome? And what are the challenges we might face? And who came up with this in the first place? So that fourth type of preference or style needs facts. They need information. They need the analytical data before you even bring to them this inspiration of hope. And so with those four different types of styles of leadership and operation within environments, a good leader, a leader who leads by hope, learns the nuances of what ignites hope in those different people, what ignites them. My goal in sharing these types of things is to draw you into an internal dialogue or conversation that simply starts with, who am I here? Who am I here and what am I doing? And can I be consistently myself, which leads to, are you prepared? Are you professionally developed? Are you in personal development exercises on a daily basis? I want to close this particular episode with this. Hope really is a leadership strategy. It's a strategy and not just something you have or you don't have. It's really an alignment of hearts and energy as well as culture. It helps an organization or an individual or a group keep moving through the uncertainties. Hope becomes really an anchor of our well-being, an anchor of our soul, as it is written in ancient text. Hope is the anchor of our souls. Now, we don't hope for what we already see. We hope for what is to come based on an assurance activated by faith or belief in what it is that we're hoping for. Faith is then the substance or the manifestation of what it is that we hope for, and it becomes evidence of what it is that we cannot see. So when we think about using hope as my style of leadership, accompanied by my own unique preference of communication, I could be a hopeful leader who's very direct and straightforward and let's get to it, high energy. I can be a leader who is hopeful yet inclusive and want to have everybody involved to make sure that everybody's comfortable. And then I could be the type of leader who wants to maintain a status quo, although that status quo should be progressively moving toward a goal, shrouded in hope. And then, of course, the conscientious one who wants to know the reasons, the why, the what ifs, and just pan out every scenario. That's okay too. If you notice that each of these are not mutually exclusive, they all work together within groups, teams, organizations, and even within ourselves. The good thing about these preferences is that there's flexibility in that I can adopt any one of them for any scenario that I am leading in as a leader who leads with hope. I hope that this was beneficial to you in some kind of way and that the strategy of leading by hope will inevitably cause you to grow. So this has been Dr. Tarence Lauchié with the Growth Exchange podcast. And as always, let's grow. This episode has been brought to you by the Growth Center, Inc., celebrating more than 20 years of making a difference. The Growth Center's mission is to impact the community and the world through meaningful partnerships, which offer resources, life skills training, and other programs that strengthen individuals, families, and communities. The Growth Center is committed to developing a Christ-centered program that helps individuals grow in every area of their lives. It makes global impact, youth development, personal empowerment, financial fitness, and scholarship promotion. The Growth Center, Inc. at www.thegrowthcenterinc.org. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Growth Exchange. I'm Dr. Tarence Lauchié. It's been a pleasure to have these conversations and dialogues with our guests. If you notice, one thing we all share in common, and that is the ability, the desire, and the potential to grow and maximize our fullest potential. So keep tuning in. Share this with somebody, like it, maybe even invite somebody. And if you'd like to be a guest, contact us with the information that's here and available for you. Let's grow.